Never fear, Apple has suggestions for developing iOS apps. Just as the iPhone and iPad can extend the reach of the user, the device possibilities and the development environment can extend your reach as a developer. So it helps to understand Apple's perspective on what iOS apps should be. The company clearly has done some serious thinking about it, far longer than anybody else out there, having taken years to bring the iPhone and iPad to market under a veil of secrecy. So what does Apple think? Spokespeople often talk about three different application styles: productivity apps that use and manipulate information, immersive apps that deliver a visually rich environment users can interact with, and utility apps that perform simple, highly defined tasks. Productivity applications use and manipulate information. There are many examples in the App Store, from Travel Kit, Bento, Dropbox, Documents to Go, Print and Share, FileMaker, and, of course, Apple's iWorks apps, including Keynote, Pages, and Numbers, which are on the iPad. Common to all these apps is the use and manipulation of multiple types of information. Note that I'm not talking about the productivity category in the App Store. That's a marketing designation. We're talking about applications that use and manipulate information, and that make you, in a way, productive with that information. The second app style is immersive applications, which are focused on delivering and having the user interact with content in a visually rich environment. Just about any game is a typical example of an immersive application, but so is an app like GarageBand, which immerses you in the musical instrument that you're playing. The third style are utility applications, which perform simple and highly defined tasks. The pre-installed stocks and weather apps on an iPhone are great examples. They deal only with stock or weather data. The calendar app takes care of your calendars. Again, I'm not talking about the utilities category in the App Store, although many of those apps are considered utility apps because they perform simple, highly defined tasks. But apps such as Alive Albums, which pulls your photos and other friends' photos from Facebook, the Zipcar app would also be considered a utility app because it is focused on a simple, highly defined task, which is to reserve a car and make sure you can unlock it. Another example of a utility app is the Bubble Level sample app. It demonstrates a utility view, which is used to calibrate the bubble level. The user displays the utility view by clicking the I button. The Bubble Level utility view then lets you calibrate the bubble level. You can use the Bubble Level sample app to design a utility app that offers a utility view. The utility views generally are opened with a tap of an I button and then closed by tapping a Done button. The sample app that we build together is based on the utility application template, which offers both an information button to open the utility view and the Done button to close the utility view. Simplicity and ease of use are fundamental principles for all types of software, but in iPhone apps, they're critical. The reason for that is multitasking. iPhone users and iPad users are probably doing other things simultaneously while they're also using your app. In a multitasking environment, you don't want to distract the user from what he or she is doing. You want to integrate the app into the task so that the user experience follows a natural flow and doesn't cause a detour. Your goal is to supply the user with only the information that's applicable to the task at hand. If the user has to scroll through lots of menus or figure out how the application works, the app's value drops off exponentially with the amount of time it takes to get to where the user needs to be. And since the user is going to be using many other apps, keep in mind that consistency across apps is a very good design choice. As with the Mac, users have a general sense of how apps work on the iPhone. One of the early appeals of the Mac was how similarly all the applications worked. So the folks at Apple carried over this similarity into the iPhone and iPad as well. And that's why consistency is also an important part of functionality. Although you could design a page reading app to add or delete a bookmark in a different way, the Safari app already does it a certain way and you should follow along. This is why my app on the right, Tony's Tips for iPhone Users, provides the same methods for adding and deleting a bookmark as the Safari app on the left. Safari provides a good model for adding and deleting a bookmark, so why not follow it? You can find nearly all the standard user interface components in the UI Catalog sample app, and from that app you can copy the interface elements and code into your own app. So fortunately, staying consistent is easy to do in an iPhone or iPad app because the frameworks at your disposal have that behavior built in. You can find nearly all the standard user interface components in the UI Catalog sample app. and you can copy these interface elements and code into your own app. Play around with UI Catalog to see how these interface elements work. For example, to look at various uses of buttons, click Buttons. Here's a gray button that turns blue when touched. There's a button with an image, and if you scroll down, you see that there are more buttons, including a detailed disclosure button, an info light, and an info dark button, which are used in utility apps, and even a contact add button. These are all buttons you can copy into your projects. You can also see various controls, the standard switch, the slider, and the customized slider, text fields and how to enter text into them, search bars for searching, pickers for picking names in the contacts list, or numbers, or dates, and so on. Remember that a compelling iPhone or iPad user experience requires familiar iPhone or iPad interface components, and they offer standard functionality, such as searching and navigating through sets of data. Use these iPhone and iPad standard behaviors and gestures and metaphors in standard ways. To make a selection, have users tap it. To start an action, have users tap a button. To scroll a list, allow users to flick or drag. iPhone users understand these gestures because the built-in applications utilize them consistently. This is not to say that you should never extend the interface, especially if you're blazing new trails or creating a new game. For example, if you're creating a roulette wheel for the iPhone, why not use a circular gesture to spin the wheel, even if it isn't a standard gesture?